So I'm going to go ahead, type in the title. I'm doing this because the very first thing Textio is doing, the last slide said there's 40 million tagged job listings. I was actually going to go 50 slides a couple weeks old, about 50 million tagged job listings at this point. The very first thing that's happening here in the background is Textio is sort of funneling down that set to the applicable comparison group. So the language that works to hire a software engineer is pretty different than the language that works to hire a barista, right? So we're going to go ahead and call this engineering job. This is in Seattle. Location also makes a big difference, right? The patterns that work to hire someone in Seattle different than in Hong Kong or London or even San Francisco.
How is it different? Can you give an example about how local is?
Yes, we did a blog on this last year. It's still one of my favorite blogs that we've done. Again, all studies start with narcissism. I was sitting in a coffee shop in San Francisco where I go every few weeks with a lot of customers and investors there. And I heard like the three guys next to me talk about their startup, which is basically every coffee shop in the Bay Area. And they use the word awesome 900 times per minute. This is super awesome. Oh my God, it's going to be so awesome. This is awesome. I had a great pitch with this investor. It was awesome. And I was like, I wonder if awesome shows up more in San Francisco job posts than anywhere else. And sure enough, like 3 times as much as the rest of the country. Seattle needs honesty. It's pretty cool. Seattle employers look more for honesty than the rest of the country. Laid back shows up as a selected attribute in Honolulu and LA more than the rest of the country. So we did a little blog. There's an interactive. I'm sure you can go dig it up and find. But it's sort of a glib summary of actually what is very real, which is the patterns that work in markets vary because you're hiring in the local market. People speak in certain way. But anyway, let's see this Amazon job. I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. I see. This gets a 50 out of 100, which means that Textio forecasts that this job is going to fill faster than 50% of similar jobs on the market. That metric for us, how fast a role fills, is still for our customers, the single most important metric. Because it's the thing that tells them whether they're getting the most qualified people in the door the fastest. Is the thing that they spend money on, right? The longer those roles stay open, the more they're spending to recruit for them, to interview for them, the work's not getting done. So 50%. Once you get above 90 in Textio, really good things start to happen. When you get your score above 90, roles fill 17% more quickly on average. They attract 24% more candidates who are qualified enough to screen, and most relevant to this talk, 12% more candidates from underrepresented groups. And those are surely connected metrics, right? If you're reaching a broader set of the population with a higher qualification level, of course.
Does that include older males?
All the what?
Your underserved, groups.
Yeah, it includes, for us, who's underserved depends on the industry and the job title. So we're talking tech here because this is kind of a tech-oriented crowd. When we work with fashion purveyors, actually who's underrepresented might be really different. You have a conventionally African-American brand who's underrepresented might be really different. So, but for the demographics that are identified as underrepresented for the employer, you see a 12% lift once Textio models are above 90. And again, if you're reaching a broader set of the population, of course you'll fill roles more quickly because you're going to find that qualified person faster. It's actually common sense when you really stop to think about if you accept the terms that qualifications are pretty broadly distributed. So let's take a look here. When you see language that is green, this is language that statistically for this kind of job drives up positive engagement from both qualified applicants and doesn't have a demographic selection criteria, right? It means that all demographic groups that Textio is measuring respond well to this sort of green language. So the more green, the better you are. Red language is language that statistically drives down positive engagement in the system. And Textio recognizes now about 100,000 phrases that are predictive one way or the other. We also have something called opportunities in the system, which I'll show you. So if I think about sort of green, these green green phrases and sort of the circles. These are phrases that, there's nothing wrong with them, but Textio in the background has calculated alternative ways to say it, and in fact, if you use that, it would perform just a little bit better. So I want to go ahead and say, instead of creating the best shopping experience, maybe I want to say crafting. So I'm going to click that, and the scores can go up just a couple of points. So the whole idea is that as you're working, you're getting that real feedback. If I come over here and I look at this red language, again, the language that statistically drags down the performance of the job, I get a little tooltip with some guidance. This is an example of kind of a corporate cliche, which, by the way, every demographic group hates. People of color hate it even more, which is probably because the language grew up in predominantly white corporate culture, so it has some signifier significance here. If I wanted to go ahead, instead of saying the ideal candidate will get to lead in design, I'll just say you and talk like person. The score will go up maybe a point or two. So the idea is you kind of keep going until you get yourself to the threshold that you'd like to be at. The parts that I'm showing right now, engrams are kind of the key piece, the opportunities piece, where you're looking for alternative ways to say it, take into account significant amounts of linguistic context. Right, so it's no longer just straight engram matching, but it's in fact, of all of the possible permutations and ways to say this, what's going to work in this syntactic context. For us right now, context is moving the sentence, but probably broadening that. You'll see here, I'll come back to the blue and purple in a moment. Over here on the side, Textio is looking also for structural characteristics, so it's not just looking at phrase level, but it's looking at how the phrases are put together. There's some elements of syntax, there's some elements of semantics. So syntax, things like, there's great strong use of active language here. You can kind of see there's a sweet spot for what you want your proportion to be. This is almost all the way over to the edge. We look at semantic content. So Textio has looked at this and discovered there's no equal opportunity statement in it at all. If they had one, Textio would have evaluated its strength, because we know some perform better in the market than others. By the way, if you have an authentically worded equal opportunity statement in your job, your goals on average fill 10% more quickly. Again, you're reaching the whole population. If you're going to get a qualified person sooner, your jobs will fill faster. One of the things I love about this, and why we started with job posts as a really interesting commercial application, is because you can measure success. Like, companies are very clear about their hiring goals. They want to fill roles quickly, they want qualified people, increasingly they want an inclusive set of people. Textio, because it's trained on a domain-specific corpus, we get to make a quantitative promise to people. We get to tell companies, yep, you're going to get above 90 on average, those roles are filling 17% faster, you're getting 12% more candidates from underrepresented groups. That's really compelling, because it's not unconscious bias training, it's actionable, and you can promise, hey, do it, roll it out, and you're going to see a result. And people are, we'll show some of those in a minute. We do collect data about a number of demographic dimensions. Gender is the first one we put into the product because the data explicitly, because the data set is very strong around gender. Again, we use only candidate-provided information about their gender. We represent it as a spectrum on purpose because candidates sometimes don't put themselves at one end or the other within the spectrum. Sort of blue phrases, again, phrases that statistically draw more candidates that identify as men. All else being equal for the role. You can see for this title, in this market, this little hash mark here is average. This over here is where Textio predicts this listing is going to perform, so more masculine than average. If I wanted to go ahead and maybe make this a little bit more gender neutral, again, I can hover over, I can click on an alternative, and see what happens. My tone will go over just a tiny bit. So you get the idea. I'll talk more about it as we go. Takes people about 8 minutes usually to edit a job post. So it's actually a pretty small investment for them to make to get better and more diverse people. It's part of why it works for people. Talked about these results. So what's behind the platform for us? And strong commitment for us to a quantitative system, not a qualitative system. Textio doesn't, it's not the summary of an academic focus group. It doesn't give somebody's opinions. It says, hey, we have a really large, millions and millions of job post data set. We know who applied to which jobs. We're going to show you the patterns that actually drew this group of people to that group of people. So if you want to actually move your results on diversity, you do want a broader group. We're going to make a quantitative promise to you. One thing we're often asked by companies is like, awesome, we use it, our hiring managers love it, we use it on every job listing, so are we good now? Like, well, no, you're not good now, because language changes. So the patterns that worked 3 months ago may not work anymore. One of my favorite examples of this, I think I may have it in the deck, drug-free workplace last year plummeted in tech job listings. If you talk about having a drug-free workplace, no one wants to work for you. I don't know why. I don't know if everyone's going to work to do drugs, but there's a thing in tech in particular, I think that's often at odds with a sort of top-down, here are the rules kind of approach, because the workplaces are in general very flexible. So we see that. The words, like kind of much maligned words, rockstar and ninja. Rockstar was in that last job listing, if you notice. They've received a lot of bad press. It's actually astounding that a company like Amazon still has job listings containing those phrases. Not that astounding, it's true.
I've never known a rock star didn't use drugs. So.
It's true. Yeah, there you go. But actually, 5 years ago, when you used those phrases in a job listing, it did have, and our data goes back about 5 years, it did have adverse effects on the number of women applying for the job. But if you use it today, that effect is significantly amplified because so many companies have gotten the memo, avoid these phrases, that now when you see it in a job listing, it's really actually a bell ringer. You're like, ooh, I don't want to work in that place. Whereas 5 years ago, you had fewer choices because they were so pervasive, especially in Bay Area, West Coast tech. Another key precept for us is Textio doesn't judge. It shows you what will happen, not what should happen. So you're in charge of your business. One thing we get asked all the time by tech companies is, should I aim for a job post that's gender neutral or one that is really feminine in voice? I want to hire more women. And the answer is often, well, who's in your team today? What are you trying to achieve? So if you have 20 men in your team and this is the 21st hire, yeah, you might want to amp up the feminine tone of that listing to up your chances. But if you already have a pretty balanced team, maybe you should stay in the middle. By the way, if you keep your tone in the middle, the job's still a lot faster, which we'll talk about. And then kind of the final thing is we talk a lot about learning loops. This isn't primarily a learning loop talk, it's about unconscious bias, but a learning loop is very much if you're part of the system that's contributing data and intelligence to the model, then you're benefiting from the whole system. And so if you can hire with, thousands of companies' intelligence showing you the patterns that have worked to hire more women or more people of color or to fill roles faster, you're just going to be more successful than if you're trying to use your own data anecdotally. The example I like to use, random people have used Waze here to drive. I love Waze. What you do when you use Waze is you kind of see, okay, here's where all the traffic is and I better avoid it. And the reason you get that privilege is because your phone is sending your location into the algorithm, and as a result, everybody gets to their destination a little bit faster. Textio is very similar. You're giving your outcomes data into the system in exchange for using the intelligence of the entire community. And in fact, the performance gap is really, like the nerd in me was very excited to see the performance gap in hiring between companies in the network and outside the network is only widening month over month as the network is smarter. It's cool. We're at 7. So quick, show an example. We've done a number of case studies now, but I'll show this from Expedia because they're local, so maybe some of you know people there. Maybe some of you work there. They started out when they began their Textio subscription. They had a real goal, like many tech companies, of hiring more women into both tech and leadership roles. These results have now been replicated with a number of other companies in other industries. But it turns out that for their jobs that resulted in a male hire at the end of the process, the original job post had almost twice as many phrases that Textio coded as masculine biased as feminine. Right? Turns out for jobs that resulted in a female hire at the end of the day, the original job post had twice as many feminine phrases as masculine. And again, it stands to reason If you bring more women into your pipeline up front, of course you're more likely to hire a woman at the end of the process, and vice versa. So it's really, really interesting. More interesting for us is what happened in time to fill. So since you're not recruiters, I'll tell you, for most large tech companies, roles stay open about 55 to 60 days. That's average fill time. You can see on the left, when they moved their Textio score, average from 49, which is where they started, to 90. Pretty good. They picked up, about a business week's improvement off of time to hire. That's a lot of money for them. That actually translates to a few $1 million a year. Pretty good. When they moved their gender tone, though, the starting tone, which they had on average very masculine to neutral, they filled roles 2 weeks faster, which is huge, right? I mean, think about if any of you have ever been involved in hiring, or you've ever been a candidate, if you were 2 weeks faster, how much more enjoyable that would be. And it's, again, not surprising. You're reaching the whole population, not just half the population. Of course, you'll find a qualified person. So really, really